Hi, my name is Anna. Our wedding to Jake, a mixture of joy and hidden tension, was perfect in every detail, meticulously planned by his mother, Mrs. Harper. As we stood at the altar, Jake whispered, "You look stunning, Anna. This is our day." His words were a balm, but I couldn't shake off the feeling of being constantly watched. At the reception, Mrs. Harper approached us, her smile as polished as her words. "Anna dear, everything is just splendid. You're officially a Harper now," she exclaimed, patting my hand a bit too firmly. I forced a smile. "Thank you, Mrs. Harper. It means a lot to have your blessing." "Oh, please, call me Mom," she insisted, her gaze lingering a moment too long. Jake, beaming, wrapped his arm around me. "Yeah, Anna, she's family now. Right, Mom?" "Absolutely," she replied, her eyes gleaming. Family is everything to us Harpers. As the night wore on, I found myself cornered by Mrs. Harper. "Now, Anna, about where you two will live," she began. "We were actually thinking of a place midway between our workplaces," I interjected, hoping to assert some independence, but Mrs. Harper waved her hand dismissively. "Nonsense. I found a lovely house just 10 minutes from ours. It's perfect for starting your lives together." I glanced at Jake, seeking support, but he only nodded. "Mom's paying the rent, Anna. It's a great place, you'll see." I felt a knot in my stomach. "But my commute, it would be almost 2 hours." Mrs. Harper's smile didn't waver. "A small sacrifice for being close to family, dear. You'll adjust." The rest of the evening passed in a blur. I remember dancing with Jake, his promises of a beautiful future echoing in my ears. Yet, in the back of my mind, Mrs. Harper's words, "You're a Harper now," felt less like a welcome and more like a decree. As we drove away, I leaned against Jake, the joy of being his wife, battling the uneasy feeling of losing a part of myself to the Harper family's expectations. The day Jake and I moved into our new home, the one his mother had so insistently chosen, dawned bright and clear. I remember standing in the empty living room, boxes piled around us, feeling a strange mix of emotions. The house was beautiful, no doubt, but it wasn't our choice. It was hers. "Isn't it just perfect, Anna?" Jake beamed, wrapping his arm around my shoulder. He was genuinely excited, oblivious to my reservations. I forced a smile. "It's lovely, Jake, but it's so far from my work. The commute will be exhausting." He shrugged, still smiling. "Mom thought of that. She said living close to family is what matters most. We can always find solutions for the commute." His phone buzzed, and he glanced at the screen. "It's Mom. Let's FaceTime her. She's eager to see how we're settling in." The screen lit up, revealing Jake's mother's eager face. "Oh, look at you two in your new home. How do you like it, Anna?" "It's spacious," I replied, trying to sound enthusiastic. "But I'm a bit worried about the distance from work." "Nonsense, dear. Family should be close. You'll adjust in no time. Plus, it's a safer neighborhood, and you'll be closer to me for any help you need." Jake nodded in agreement. "Mom's right, Anna. It's all for the best." I bit my lip, feeling my concerns dismissed. "Yes, I suppose. And Anna dear, make sure to set up the guest room nicely. I'll be visiting often," she added with a chuckle. I exchanged a glance with Jake, hoping he'd sense my discomfort, but he only laughed. "Of course, Mom. We'll make sure it's comfortable for you." Our new home, a symbol of our new life together, felt more like a gilded cage, and I couldn't help but wonder if Jake would ever see it through my eyes. I tried to settle into our new home, despite the long commute and the sense of isolation in a neighborhood chosen not by us, but by Jake's overbearing mother. However, my efforts to adapt were soon overshadowed by the growing tension and criticism I faced, especially in the realm of cooking and housekeeping, which marked the beginning of a deeper rift in our marriage. I could feel the weight of her gaze as I fumbled with the kitchen utensils, trying my best to prepare a meal that would at least be passable in her eyes. Jake's mother, Mrs. Harper, watched me like a hawk, her sharp eyes missing nothing. "You know, Anna, in our family, we cut vegetables much more finely," she remarked, her voice laced with a tone that suggested she was pointing out a grave mistake. I tried to keep my voice steady. "I see. I'll try to do it better next time." My hands trembled slightly, betraying my nervousness. Jake walked in, oblivious to the tension. "Smells great in here. What's for dinner?" he asked cheerfully. I forced a smile. "Just trying a new recipe, dear," Mrs. Harper interjected swiftly. "Anna's still learning our family's way of doing things. It's quite different from what she's used to in her rural upbringing." Jake laughed it off. "Oh, Mom, give her some time. She'll learn." He wrapped an arm around my waist, but it felt more like a consolation than a gesture of affection. After dinner, when Jake had retreated to the living room, Mrs. Harper cornered me in the kitchen. "Anna, dear, your use of spices is all wrong. Too bland. Remember, you're part of this family now. You need to adopt our ways." "I'm trying my best," I responded, my frustration beginning to simmer. "It's just that I'm not used to these recipes yet." "There's a lot you're not used to, my dear. But as a member of this family, it's your duty to adapt," she said, her words slicing through my already dwindling confidence. Later that night, in the privacy of our bedroom, I turned to Jake, seeking some solace. "Your mother is really hard on me. I'm trying, but it feels like it's never enough." Jake, ever the peacemaker, took my hands in his. "She's just set in her ways. You know how she is, but she means well. She sees you as family. That's why she's so involved." "But it's suffocating, Jake. I feel like I'm constantly being judged and falling short." He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I know it's tough, but that's just how Mom shows her love. It's her way of welcoming you into the family. Just give it some time, and everything will be fine." This was a glimpse of what my life in this family would be, constantly under the magnifying glass, struggling to meet expectations that felt alien to me. As the days went by, I noticed that Jake's mother was increasingly involved in our lives, and soon she announced her plans to remodel our house. It felt like she was stamping her authority over every corner of our existence, starting with transforming our home into a reflection of her extravagant tastes. I felt like a stranger in my own home. The walls, once a calming shade of blue, were now draped in gaudy wallpaper. Gold and crimson patterns danced around me, overwhelming my senses. The furniture, once simple and modern, had been replaced by ornate, Rococo-style pieces with claw feet that seemed to claw at the very essence of my comfort. Jake walked in, his eyes bright with excitement. "Isn't this amazing, Anna? Mom really outdid herself this time," he exclaimed, gesturing around the room. I tried to mask my disappointment. "It's certainly different, Jake, but don't you think it's a bit much?" I ventured cautiously. He laughed, walking over to a plush velvet sofa. "Come on, Anna, it's luxurious, just what we deserve. Mom said she wanted to celebrate you joining the family." I sat down beside him, the sofa swallowing me whole. "But this isn't us, Jake. It's not what we discussed. It feels more like your mother's taste than ours." Jake's smile faltered slightly. "I know it's a big change, but Mom's just trying to help. She's excited about having you in the family." I sighed, looking around at the ostentatious decor. "I appreciate that she wants to welcome me, but this doesn't feel like a home to me. It feels like a museum." Jake reached for my hand, his voice softening. "Anna, give it some time. You'll get used to it. We're a family now, and that means making compromises." Compromises. The word echoed in my mind. Was I the only one making them? As if on cue, Jake's mother, Mrs. Harper, breezed into the room, her eyes sparkling. "Oh, Anna, don't you just love what I've done with the place? It's a fresh start for you both." I forced a smile. "It's very generous of you, Mrs. Harper, but I was hoping we could have had a say in the decor." Her smile never wavered, but her eyes hardened just a touch. "Darling, I have decades of experience in home design. Trust me, this is what's best. You're new to the family, and I want you to have the very best." I felt Jake squeeze my hand, a silent plea to let it go, but the words spilled out of me. "I understand, Mrs. Harper, but this is our home, Jake's and mine. We should have a home that reflects both of us." Mrs. Harper's smile finally faltered. "My dear, you're part of this family now, and in this family, we value certain standards of living. You'll understand that in time." I looked at Jake, hoping for support, but he avoided my gaze. In that moment, I realized that my voice in this new family was as absent as the familiar simplicity of our once cozy living room. Ever since the day I married Jake, I felt like I was living in a surreal world, one where I constantly tiptoed around eggshells. But nothing prepared me for the day his mother was hospitalized. It was a Tuesday evening, just as I was settling down from my long commute and the chaos of work. "Anna, it's Mom. She's in the hospital." Jake's voice was frantic over the phone. I remember feeling a surge of concern, tinged with confusion. "What happened? Is she okay?" "It's her heart," he replied, his voice heavy with worry. "Can you meet me at the hospital?" The hospital room was sterile and cold, matching the mood. Jake's mother lay on the bed, her face pale, but her eyes sharp as ever. Jake hovered by her side, a picture of a worried son. I lingered by the doorway, unsure of my place. "Anna, dear, come in. See what happens when you don't take care of your health," she chided, her voice weak but laced with that familiar critical tone. I approached tentatively, trying to muster a comforting smile. "I'm sorry to see you like this. How can I help?" Her response was immediate and pointed. "You can start by learning to take better care of your family. A wife's role is to ensure her husband and his parents are well cared for." I felt a sting at her words, a reminder of my ever-scrutinized role in this family. Jake interjected, his voice gentle yet firm. "Mom, Anna is doing her best. We didn't know you were feeling unwell." His mother scoffed, turning her sharp gaze towards him. "That's because you're too wrapped up in your own world. A good wife would have noticed and taken action." The tension in the room was palpable. I struggled to find words, feeling both defensive and sympathetic. "I'm here to support in any way I can, but I also have my job to consider." Jake's mother's eyes narrowed. "Your job? What about your duties to this family? You're not just a career woman, you're a wife and a daughter-in-law." Jake remained silent, his eyes shifting between us. I could feel the weight of expectation on my shoulders, suffocating and unreal. "Mom, Anna is right. She has her own responsibilities too." Jake finally spoke up, his voice barely above a whisper. The room fell into an uneasy silence. I realized then that this was more than just a hospital visit. It was a stark revelation of the unyielding roles and expectations set upon me, a reminder of the suffocating grip of tradition and control in this family. As I sat at the kitchen table, the silence was broken only by the ticking of the clock. My thoughts were a whirlwind of emotions, all centered around the recent hospitalization of Jake's mother. I was still reeling from the news that she expected me to take over her care. Jake entered the room, his face etched with the usual blend of concern and obliviousness. "Anna, we need to talk about Mom's care," he began, his voice tentative. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. "Jake, I understand she's your mother, but I can't be her full-time caregiver. I have my job, our home to manage." He interrupted, "But she's family, Anna, and caring for family is what we do." I felt a surge of frustration. "But where does it stop, Jake? I'm already stretched thin. Your mother's expectations are unrealistic." Jake's expression hardened. "My mother raised me on her own. She's sacrificed so much. It's our turn to take care of her." "Our turn, or my turn?" I challenged. "You know how demanding your job is. It's not fair to put all this on me." He sighed, running his hands through his hair. "Anna, she's not just anyone. She's my mother. And she's not asking for much, just some help around the house, maybe with her medication." I shook my head. "It's never just some help, Jake. It's her dictating every aspect of our lives. It's her criticism and constant belittling. I'm your wife, not a nursemaid or a maid." Jake's face softened slightly. "I know it's tough, but that's family. We stick together no matter what." "Even if it means sacrificing our happiness, our marriage?" I asked, the desperation clear in my voice. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "I love you, Jake, but I can't lose myself in the process of pleasing your mother." Jake stood up, his demeanor showing a mix of frustration and resignation. "I thought you understood what being a part of this family meant, Anna." I stood up too, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. "I do understand, Jake. but I also understand that I need to be respected and valued, not just as a daughter-in-law, but as your wife, as a person." There was a heavy silence before Jake finally said, "We'll talk about this later," and left the room. I stood in the middle of what once promised to be a haven of marital bliss, surrounded by boxes and the remnants of a life I was eager to leave behind. The walls, once a symbol of a shared future, now echoed with the silence of a dream unfulfilled. Jake walked in, his face a mix of confusion and anger. "What's all this, Anna? Are you going somewhere?" he asked, his voice barely concealing the strain. I turned to face him, my resolve firm. "I'm leaving, Jake. I can't do this anymore. I can't be part of a family that sees me as nothing more than an outsider." He scoffed. "Outsider? You're my wife, Anna. You're not an outsider." "That's just it, Jake. To you and your mother, I'm only a wife in name. You've never accepted me for who I am. Your mother dictates everything, and you just let her." Jake's expression softened momentarily. "Anna, she's my mother. She's just looking out for us." "Looking out for us? Or controlling us?" I challenged. "She's turned our life into her own version of a perfect family, and I'm just an accessory in it." Jake ran a hand through his hair, a sign of his growing frustration. "You're exaggerating. She's always been like this. It's her way of showing that she cares. By belittling me, by expecting me to abandon my job and my identity. That's not care, Jake. That's control. And I won't be a part of it anymore." There was a pause, heavy with unspoken words and shattered expectations. "Is there no way I can change your mind?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. I shook my head, feeling a twinge of pain for the love we once shared. "I've made up my mind. I need to find a place where I'm respected and valued, not just tolerated." Jake looked around at the boxes, then back at me. "What about us? What about our marriage?" "Our marriage was over the moment your mother decided she was the third person in it. I need to be my own person, Jake, not just an extension of your family." Jake's expression softened momentarily. "Anna, please, we can work this out. I love you." "Love isn't enough, Jake." "And what about her?" I asked, my voice steady. "The girl you've been seeing secretly. I know about her." Jake's face turned pale. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb, Jake. I hired a private detective. I've seen the photos. I know you brought her to your parents' house." Jake's jaw clenched. That was nothing. She means nothing to me." "It doesn't matter, Jake. It's over. I want a divorce, and I'm not going to change my mind." Jake looked at me, his eyes searching for any sign of hesitation. Finding none, he let out a long sigh. "Fine, but you won't get a penny from me." I smiled, a sense of relief washing over me. "I don't want your money, Jake. I just want my freedom." He turned and walked away, the finality of our conversation hanging heavily in the air. As I watched him go, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I was finally free from a marriage that had brought me nothing but pain. It was time to start a new chapter in my life, one where I was in control of my own happiness. With a renewed sense of freedom and determination, I turned my focus towards building a new life, one that was truly my own. I stood in my modest yet cozy apartment, looking out at the city skyline. It had been a few months since the divorce, and life was finally feeling like my own again. My job at the company was going well, and I had made some new friends in the area. The phone rang, disrupting my thoughts. It was Mark, my former father-in-law. "Anna, I heard you've settled in. How are you doing?" Mark's voice sounded weary but hopeful. "I'm doing well, Mark. It's been a journey, but I'm getting there. How about you? How are things on your end?" I asked, genuinely concerned. He sighed deeply. "It's been tough. The divorce with her was finalized last week. I never imagined my life would take such a turn at this age." I could sense his pain. "I'm sorry to hear that, Mark, but sometimes a fresh start is what we need." There was a pause before he spoke again. "You know, I put the house up for sale. Everything that happened, it just feels tainted now." "That must be hard, but maybe it's for the best," I replied, thinking about all the memories that house held. "Yeah, maybe. Oh, and about Jake and his mother. They've moved into a smaller place. Things are tight for them now, financially speaking." A part of me felt sorry for them, but I quickly reminded myself of all the pain they had caused. Well, everyone makes their choices, Mark. We live with the consequences. You're right, Anna. And Anna, I wanted to say, I'm sorry for everything. Thank you, Mark. That means a lot. But we've both moved on now, and that's what matters. There was a knock at my door. Mark, I have to go. Someone's here. Take care of yourself, okay? You too, Anna. Goodbye. I hung up and opened the door. It was Lily, a colleague, and now a good friend, holding a box of pizza. Ready for our movie night? She asked with a smile. Absolutely. Come on in. I smiled back, feeling a surge of gratitude for this new chapter in my life, away from the chaos of the past. As we settled in with our pizza, Lily asked, So, how are you really doing, Anna? I thought about it for a moment. You know, Lily, I think I'm finally at peace. It's been a rough road, but I'm finding my way, and I'm excited about what the future holds. That's great to hear, Anna. Here's to new beginnings. She raised a slice of pizza, as if toasting. To new beginnings, I echoed, taking a bite of my pizza, feeling content and hopeful.